Hey everyone, welcome to the main event. It is Wednesday, April 19th, 2023, and this is Joe Tillman, the hair transplant mentor, and you're watching the Hair Transplant channel on YouTube and listening to the podcast on whatever platform I decided to upload this to. Thank you for joining me. I hope everyone can hear me. Let's see if we got the sound going the way it needs to be going. People in the chat room, please let me know if you can hear me properly. I'm hoping you can. I'm thinking I'm getting this down to a nice science where I don't need to kind of fidget and try to get things going. Looking in the chat room here, let's get more Joe for the main event. Yeah, thank you very much. When Joe Tillman be in Los Angeles, inquiring minds want to know. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm not getting any sort of responses on that. Let's see. Popping around here. Excuse me. Looking for confirmation. Anyone in the chat room, can you hear me? I think you should be able to hear me just fine. Got things going on here. Let's see. Microphone's working. Loud and clear. Thank you very much, Brotherbond 60. It's tough because I got this delay, so I don't know if it's actually going out the way it should. So I need to start scrambling to find out what the problem is. But yeah, like I said, it seems to be working smoothly. And yeah, so anyway, if you don't know who I am and what I'm doing here, my name is Joe Tillman. I have been in the hair transplant industry for 20 years. I am also a 29 year, surgical veteran, where I had my first of two bad hair transplants 29 years ago, and then throughout my 20s had ant legs sticking out my forehead, looked like they were on growth hormone, and went really bald and then got repaired. And that was my the beginning of my entry into the industry simply because I was so fascinated by the prospect of having a bad hair transplant and then being redeemed through excellent surgical repair. Yeah, and so I've worked with some fantastic clinics throughout the years, and I'm currently working with about 15 different clinics, or 15 different doctors rather, working for a lot of different clinics around the world, and I think that they're fantastic. So if you ever are curious about who I work with and maybe looking for some possible options for your own surgical needs, assuming that you've been through all the medical options and non-surgical options, then check out the doctors I work with. They're at hairtransplantmentor.com. Click on doctors, and I got some in Asia, I got some in Europe and North America. So anyway, what's on my mind today before we take the calls? I was sent a link, to a video on YouTube by Vice News, which is usually, I usually like Vice News and the, almost like the exposés or documentaries they put out. And this one was about death by hair transplant, which is obviously a very, I'd say controversial, but it's a very attractive title that would get a lot of clicks. And this one was shot in India, probably by their Indian affiliate. And I was left wondering, I mean, and they talk about, you know, these different people that have died or have had, you know, really bad medical emergencies after they had their surgery. There was one guy who lost an eye, and there wasn't any detail on that case. They were just saying he lost his eye, and he was talking about it after the fact. And I can only imagine it was some sort of severe infection that had spread, probably a MRSA situation where the infection was very resistant to antibiotics, which is one of the things that MRSA is known for. It's known as a superbug, and I've seen it in action, and it ain't pretty. But I kept thinking to myself, why are they picking on India? Or any country for that matter. And I look at these kinds of videos as, I don't want to say misleading, but I look at these videos as being sensationalism, because right here in North America, I know of, I think, 4 cases in the past 5 years where a patient died having a hair transplant. And these were actually during the hair transplant. These weren't 4 or 5 days afterwards, like the cases in India we're talking about, which are horrible. I mean, this isn't to reduce the impact of how horrible those situations are, but the idea that any particular country or destination, or I'll even say a type of country, like a third world country, is responsible for death from a simple outpatient procedure, I think it's misleading. And there is some sensationalism to it because, like I said, I know of 4 cases off the top of my head in North America where the patient died and it wasn't from infection, it was from the actual during the actual surgery. And it would be either from heart attack, anaphylactic shock, things like that, which, it's hard to know if something like that would happen. It's hard to know if any of these issues would happen, but I don't know. I look at those and yeah, sure, they're horrible and sad, and of course it's pretty bad. You just go in for a simple outpatient procedure like hair transplant surgery is, and then you're left with disfigurement or death. But it's not exclusive to any country, any region or part of the country or part of the world. It happens everywhere, and it's simply just sometimes medical malpractice, sometimes just luck of the draw because people die. People walking down the street just drop dead for no reason, or no obvious reason until autopsy. But anyway, it was just in the back of my head when the show started because I'd seen that, I think it was early this morning, around 6:30, as I was sipping my coffee and, just trying to sort through the fog of waking up. But yeah, it was interesting. It's an interesting subject, but it's one that I think is something that you guys should be aware of. When you see these things, don't be like, ooh, I can't go to that country. Unless it's like, I don't know, North Korea. You probably don't want to go there for a hair transplant. But yeah, I thought it was something just to bring up. The number is 833-563-4247. That's toll free, 1-833-563-4247. Toll free in North America. If you're using Skype or any sort of call-in app or call app anywhere else in the world, that should work just fine. Just enter that number in, and I'd be glad to take your phone calls. The title of today's show was, I'm a 20-year hair transplant veteran, AMA, Ask Me Anything. And that's basically what the show is anyway, because I've not had any guests this week, and I might have one tomorrow, trying to line this up. Not sure if it'll work out. He travels a lot. But another development for this week is I will be here on Friday. So we will have a rare Friday edition of the main event because Spencer Coburn is going to be on the road. So there will be no Spencer Coburn's The Ball Truth with me, Joe Tillman. It will be just me, Joe Tillman. So sorry to disappoint you if you're looking forward to Spencer, but that's okay. Let's see. Got some questions here. By the way, before I get to the questions or any phone calls, I got 9 likes. Let's see 12 likes. I need 3 people to hit the like button so that I can answer some questions. I will read some questions here. Joseph Moore, when will Joe Tillman be in Los Angeles? Inquiring minds and hair follicles want to know. Hey, Joe, good to see you in the chat room. Appreciate the question. I will be this year. Not sure when. I got some work to do down there, and I got some coordinating to do. So we'll see. I'll let you know when and if that happens. I got 12 likes. That's awesome. So thank you for those. World Music and Arts. I love the host, or I heart the host. Aw, I heart you too. Thank you. Let's see. St. Louis Celine. If prescribed a topical for hair loss, is it best to either shave or cut short the area of loss or entire head before starting the topical use? That's a great question. That is a superb question because there are different topicals out there that I question the efficacy due to how thick they are. due to the consistency, and if you have a decent amount of hair, how can the majority of, much less all, of the topical get to the scalp itself where you want it to do what it has to do? And shaving would actually alleviate that issue. Absolutely. But then comes the question, when do you want to grow your hair out? And once you grow your hair out, that will reduce the efficacy of that topical. If it's a thick consistency. If it's liquid, then it shouldn't make any difference. But I thought that was... I'd thought about this before because I was using a topical that was quite thick, and while it was an amazing styling agent, it wasn't... I didn't feel like it was as effective as it could have been had it been of a thinner consistency. So thank you for the question, and I hope that answers it properly for you. Sergey, hey Joe, your first two FUTs combined were around 800 grafts. Seems like a small number for FUT. Yeah, well, they were. Well, it was also 30 years ago. It was 1993. Yeah, it was 30, not 29 years ago. It was 30 years ago. And yeah, it was small. Both of them were give or take 400 grafts, 300 to 400 grafts. And yeah, so they were small. And that's just the way it was back then. This was... I got to tell you, I did escape a bullet. I did dodge a bullet through that procedure because it could have been plugs. It was in the early 90s when few clinics, not FUE, few, as they say in Europe, FUE, but relatively few clinics were actually performing strip surgery as it was back then. Most of them were still performing, a lot of them were still performing plug surgery, and I feel especially lucky because this was in East Tennessee. Coming from Tennessee, I have no problem saying that with that type of inflection. But yeah, it was East Tennessee in the early 90s. Not really known for being the most cutting edge surgical region of the country, of the world, but yeah, he was doing strip. Most people were still transitioning out of plugs, and so that's the only saving grace, that it wasn't plugs, and they were cut down to being smaller grafts than plugs. They were mini micrografts. So that's it. That's the only saving grace of that, where I skated by the skin of my teeth. So thanks for the question. Hadn't thought of that one in a while. Joe, what do you think of Keeps offering hair transplants, and what do you think it could end up being a viable option? Just wondering. Yeah, Chase 58, thanks for asking that question. Look, it was inevitable. Keeps and Hims and these other companies that are, they basically rewrote the approach for taking finasteride. I love the fact that they came along because they made finasteride more emotionally and mentally palatable for this generation of hair loss sufferers that think that if you just talk about finasteride, your dick will fall off. Yes, it's an oversimplification and over dramatization, but that's the way it sounds when some of these guys react to the idea of taking finasteride. It's like, oh my God, it's like, are you crazy? Why would I want to take that poison? But with Keeps and Hims, they've normalized it because they don't actually mention finasteride. They mention an FDA-approved medication to fight hair loss, and it's delivered to your door. It's easy. So I give them a lot of credit, and I think that going into the surgical side of things, it was inevitable, just because it's they're looking for new growth markets in their niche of hair restoration, and I generally think it's a bad idea only because it's driven by a corporation, and I don't know if they're probably incorporating existing clinics. So they're going to existing clinics and saying, hey, look, let us buy you out. You can still keep working here. We'll give you a great salary, we'll give you a piece of the action, just less than what you're getting now, but we'll take care of all the administrative costs. We'll take care of all the marketing, which will be far, far beyond what you've ever been able to afford on your own. All the things that a doctor doesn't want to do, they take off of their hands in exchange for them working for the company as an official doctor. So I think that in general it's a bad idea. There could be some good aspects to it because I don't know who's going to be working with them, but ultimately I don't like the idea simply because when you look at something that's going to be nationwide like that, and it will eventually be nationwide because they're already in a few cities, the idea becomes everyone's the same. You just come to our company, you just come to our brand, and that in and of itself will be enough for you to have a result that you're happy with. Nothing could be further from the truth. We saw that with the chain clinics that are out today and the ones that were out in the past, where you would walk into a clinic in any city that this company was working in, and they would open their book to show you the before and afters, and you don't know if the doctor in that clinic actually did those patients. And odds are they didn't, or maybe they did a couple of them. But when you open a book of, say, 50 different before and after results, odds are, at least back in the day with the chain clinics, one of them still operating today, that at least 90% of them were done at different clinics. So that takes away the personal responsibility of the doctor and places it on the company as a whole. And it's great for the doctor, but it's bad for the company, and it will potentially lead to them just being looked at as another MHR, medical hair restoration, another Bosley, back when they were, I'll say, more aggressive with their marketing and not quite so, in my view, responsible. I think that, just a little segue there, I think Bosley's become more responsible because they're making sure that everyone doing the FUE portion of their procedure is a licensed physician assistant or a nurse practitioner. So that's a good step. They're covering their bases, but still, back to your question, probably not a good idea. Just saying. So hope that answers your question. RX004, what's your expert opinion about Dr. Bloxam in New York in terms of results and overall hairline work? I haven't paid much attention to Blake's work, Dr. Bloxam's work, in a while. I remember when he was the moderator of a forum, then it was announced that he's going to work with Dr. Feller once he had graduated medical school and was officially getting into the industry. I give credit to Bloxam, Dr. Bloxam, because he knew what he wanted early on. He was in medical school, DO school, somewhere in Missouri, I think. He was going to a DO school in Missouri. Cause I looked it up. I saw something about, I forgot what it was. Anyway, I don't know where I'm getting that from. I could be wrong, but he went somewhere in the Midwest to a DO school with the idea that he was going to be a hair transplant surgeon. And that's great. And that's like the shortcut. Because DO school, doctor of osteopathy, it's a shorter academic requirement to become a doctor. I think. I know it's a different requirement than actual medical school, but I don't remember the differences. But yeah, so I don't know why I went on that tangent. He does solid work from what I remember. He certainly learned from a really good doctor, Dr. Feller, and Dr. Feller took a lot of his surgical cues from Hassan and Wong using lateral slit technique and staples for their strip closures. So that's good, but it doesn't mean anything for the results if the hands aren't any good. And I think that from what I remember, his hands are good. He's got good hands, and I think that he's probably a good option to consider. I know nothing about what he's doing now, simply because I don't talk to the guy. I've never met the guy I've never spoken to the guy. And like I said earlier, I don't follow his work. So no one asked me about him. You're the first person to ask me about him in a long time. And I never see, no one ever contacts me that is a patient, good or bad. So I wish I had more for you. Sorry. Let's see. Being racist to Tunisians. That's funny. Let's see. It's always day one. I got a hair transplant. My hairline is 1 finger above my highest forehead muscle, 7.5 to 8 centimeters from the glabella. I feel I could have gone a little lower. Is it the same with you? Do you think to lower your hairline? That's a good question. Some good questions starting out today. Thanks, guys. My hairline could be lower, yeah, but then I wouldn't have as much coverage in the back. And that's a trade-off that I think... I like my hairline. But here's the thing. If I lower my hairline, I have to bring my temple points forward as well. That's a lot of people don't understand this, that when you lower a hairline, you're not just lowering a hairline, you're altering the entire geometry of your face as far as the dimensions. And you have to bring the sides forward, because if you don't, but you lower the front, then it looks off balance when people see your profile. It looks too front heavy. So in my case, I would have to strengthen my temple points, bringing them forward. And that's the, that's the biggest question mark for me. I could get natural hairline work easily. Lowering it, it would look great. Not just from Dr. Wong, like I could go to any of the doctors I work with and it'd be really nice. But the temple points, I'm very weary of temple points, because right now my temple points are, in my view, they're among the most natural temple points on the planet. I love my temple points. There's zero indication that they're surgically created. They've got a nice density to them, and moving them forward would be starting from scratch. And I don't know if I want to risk that. Not to mention the number of grafts it would need. Like if I were to lower my hairline, say 0.5 centimeter, that would be probably 800 grafts in the front, but then I'd also have to bring the sides forward, and that's another, I don't know, maybe another 500 grafts, depending on how aggressive we're going to be. So I'd be looking at probably 1,500 grafts to lower my hairline properly the right way. And then maybe a little bit of leaving room for a little bit of a touch-up for density in spots, just to be sure. So I'm happy. I don't need to have a lower hairline. I've got great coverage. The crown is, I'll show you the crown. I'm pretty happy with that. So it's a fair trade-off in my book. All right, back at Terra Line. Sup, peeps? Hey, man. Good to have you here. Let's see. Old Sergeant Dr. Jesus from Florida did my first FUT and messed me up. Dr. Bloxham did my second and have amazing results and beautiful hairline. Good for you. Glad to hear it. Always glad to hear about successful turnarounds. Dr. Bloxham and Feller say to strip out because FU is only good for small sessions, and FUE plucks, pulls, rips, grafts out. Technically, they're not wrong, but it's getting kind of old to say that FUE is inferior when you got so many clinics doing such great work. Like, really, guys? Like, at what point, and this is me talking to Feller and Bloxham, at what point do you realize that you're spitting in the wind? I was at the same point 13 years ago. In 2010, I decided, you know what? I can't keep saying that FUT is so superior to FUE, because I'm really starting to see some beautiful results from clinics that are all FUE or still doing FUT, but also invested earlier in their FUE protocols. So I stopped saying that FUT was so superior about 13 years ago, tried to push my clinic in the direction of doing FUE. That failed miserably, fell on its face until I left 5 years later. That's what shook things up. And I think that anyone that says it's only good for small sessions. In this day and age, they've not been paying attention. And I understand that. I understand that mentality. I understand that approach, because anytime that you have an FUE repair patient coming to you for suggestions on how to fix whatever happened, based on wherever they went and what the issue was, you develop a skewed sense of reality when it comes to FUE. It's like, well, look at all these bad results. Well, of course, you're only seeing bad results because you're not seeing the successful results, the ones that aren't coming to you for repair. And there's far more patients that have success than failure that are coming into a clinic complaining about their procedures. So, yeah, I know what they say. I remember the videos that they were putting out talking about traction, torsion, and I think rotation. Is that the third? They have these three tenets about FUE that made it so bad. And yeah, it's still there. You're not eliminating those forces. I remember the question, or the claim, you can't show me that anyone has eliminated those factors. Well, you don't have to eliminate them. All you have to do is reduce their impact to the final result, and lots of clinics have. So, yeah, some people need to get their heads out of the sand. I mean, no offense, but it's just the facts. Let's see. FSK Joe, till you're mid and crown with all your Robin Williams chest hair, maybe give you more freedom to do the temples and hairline if you really want to. Yeah, I know. I don't like the idea of making plans for a hair transplant with an alternative resource and then looking for an alternative resource to deal with any shortcomings. It's too iffy. There's too many questions with all that. When you're dealing with a proven inferior donor resource such as my Robin Williams chest hair area. So, all right. Some more questions. Chase 58 Keeps says their hair surgeon is Dr. Farhan contractor. What? Or he is a contractor? Anyway, and their office is in New York and they only do FUE. I think it would be interesting if they commercialize hair transplants in a good way. Well, yeah, but they have to know what they're doing. Like, I've never heard of Dr. Farhan. He may be good. I don't know. But, I mean, when you have so much variability between, supposed specialists that have worldwide recognition in the independent surgical field where individuals are finding them based on their name, I don't see how one company can create a baseline expectation of results that's consistent. It's not possible. See. Okay, so yeah, there's some comments in the chat room, but no questions. So, guys, this is a call-in show. The number is 1-833-563-4247. You are watching the main event, and I'm here to answer your questions. And give me a call. Happy to talk to you. I'm looking forward to talking to people. I'm enjoying the show. I'm enjoying talking to you guys. I'm enjoying the back and forth that you guys are giving me the opportunity to have. I'm at home all day long by myself with my dog. So it's nice to talk to you guys. It's nice to break away from editing video, recording video, talking to myself in a microphone. And so I look forward to your phone calls. If I don't get any, that's fine. I'll just shut down for the day because I do have a lot of stuff to do. But yeah, so any other questions? Let's see. Can't find the $ icon on this live to send you thanks. Oh, that's very nice. RX004. You're talking about what's it called? I forgot what it's called, but the tipping option. I don't have that. I've not enabled it. I don't need the cash as a thank you. I do appreciate it. It's very kind. It's not something I've even thought about setting up. Milk Drinker, do you believe in minoxidil for beard growth? And if so, oral or topical? Sure. I guess. I would use topical if you're just trying to deal with the beard, but if you got other things that you want to deal with, then have it go systemic with oral. Pretty simple. Chris McClansky from Poland. Hello, buddy. How deep should the incisions be for the grafts? Well, technically, they should be no longer than the grafts are long. So when you go to a clinic that is concerned about that kind of thing, they'll take the grafts that they've already harvested via FUE or FUT, and they will measure them against a blade or a needle that they can adjust the length on, and they'll make that adjustment, and so the incision should be about the same length. So most, excuse me, on the average Caucasians, follicles will be 3.5 millimeters on the shallow end to 4.5 on the deep end. And then Asians typically have longer follicles. I've seen some, heard about some that were 6 millimeters long, which is crazy. That's really long. And yeah, so it varies. But for Caucasians, 3.5 to 4 is expected, sometimes 4.5, but usually around 4. Two turntables and a microphone, yeah. Chest FUE must effing hurt. It does. I had it done. A small test session. It wasn't fun. So guys, no phone calls, huh? 833-563-4247. No one wants to give me a call? I'm okay with it. I'm kind of surprised because this week has been pretty busy with phone calls. Yesterday was really good. Day before was really good. But I'm not going to sit here and just do chat questions. I want some back and forth. So I'm going to give the broadcast another 60 seconds starting now. If I don't get any calls, I got stuff to do. I might even want to work in my car. I've not worked in my car in a while because I'm just too busy, and it's really fun. Yeah, getting these non-related text messages. Okay, all right. So we've got about coming up on 30 seconds left, guys. I know the phone's working. Toll free 833-563-4247. I'll go ahead and look at a question in the chat room. Finasteride is supposed to be, on average, halt hair loss for 8 to 10 years. Any idea what that range might extend to if you combine oral minoxidil? I've not seen anywhere where the average efficacy is 8 to 10 years. Most people say 5, which is incorrect. I don't think that there is a time limit on that. So not sure where you're getting that. You got into some trouble to achieve that beautiful head of hair and still no lady around the house, only the dog. Come on, man, get out there. No, she's running her business. My business is at the home, in the home studios. I got 2 studios in my home, one for recording and live streaming, the other one for editing. But yeah, she's running her deal. She comes home in the evenings. So yeah. All right, guys. We've gone past the minute, and I'm not getting any phone calls. Yeah, okay. I guess that's it. Everyone, thanks for joining for this short edition of the main event. It is 3:36 Pacific time, and we will be back tomorrow, same time, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, and 10 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. That will be Thursday, April 20th. And guys, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching. Oop, here we go.